All right, everyone, it is 1 o'clock on the dot, so we are going to go ahead and turn it over to our tour guide for this afternoon, Louie Kazemier, owner of Rickreall Dairy.
Hi, everybody. I think, are we live? Are we ready to go?
Yep, you are
Okay,
ready to go, Louie.
thank you. Hey, kids. It is so fun to have you visit us today and visit Rickreall Dairy and be able to share our story with you guys in such a real way. From all over Oregon, you guys have come, and it's a cold morning over here in Rickreall, and I know in Estacada you got a lot of snow, and Lebanon got a lot of snow, but I'm glad you guys are with us. So my name is Louie Kazemier, and I'm the owner here at Rickreall Dairy. We milk about 1,700 cows 3 times a day. Now that produces enough milk to fill 2 of the big trucks that you see going down the road. They're green and white. They say Milky Way on the side. We fill 2 of those a day, and they all go to Portland, and they put most of our milk goes into the bottle, and you can buy it at Fred Meyer's or at most of these other stores. So I have 26 employees that work for us here, taking care of our animals and making sure that they're well fed and healthy and strong and producing a very, very good product. It takes us 24 hours a day to milk all of our animals. We milk 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Christmas, New Year's, 4th of July, it doesn't matter. We're always milking our animals here. I have 14 full-time employees where that's all they do is just milk our cows. We're not going to see the milking parlor today. We're going to only be visiting here in the baby calf area in our new barn. This is the newest barn that we've built, and it's just come online here 6 months ago, and I'm looking forward to showing you our new facility. I have 4 children and 7 grandchildren, and so they love to come out here. My grandkids love to come out here and play in this barn and let the calves come close to them, and they giggle and laugh when they suck on their fingers and stuff. And so let's just get right to it here. I'm standing in front of the calves that are the youngest calves that are in this barn, and these calves are all 7 days or older. And when a calf is born, when it comes out of the mother, it has no immunities. Now, what does that mean? They have no means inside their body to fight off a cold. They don't have any vitamin C in them. And so as soon as they're born, they have to get milk from the mom called colostrum. That has all the antibodies in it. And so the very first thing before these calves come over here is they get a gallon of colostrum from their mom, and we give that to them, and that builds up the immunities so that when they come out here and they hang out together in our little playpen or whatever you want to call it, they don't give each other a bunch of colds. And it's very, very important for my business and for our dairy animals that we get these calves off to a good start. It takes 2 years, 24 months from a calf when it's born today. We spend 2 years feeding it, taking care of it, babying it, getting it pregnant, and then it finally has its own calf and then becomes a milk cow. And then they have to have a calf about once a year in order to continue milking in the milk production. So these calves here are laying in the straw that we've put down, and I'm just going to go ahead and go inside. And we've just my employees were in here, and they added new, clean, fresh straw, which is what we do every day. You should have gotten a Tupperware container with this straw and this bedding in it. And this is very important because it absorbs all of their urine, and it smells good and clean in here. And besides that, when they're laying down like this and they're really close to the ground, we want what they're smelling to be very, very, very clean and not full of stuff. You can almost sit down in here, and if we did that, I don't know if the calves will come around me or not, but we monitor our calves on a regular basis. I have 2 employees that work in here, and they're very, very good at finding the calves that might have a fever, or the diarrhea, the typical things that all your little brothers and sisters get when they're little babies and growing up. These calves have an ID in their ear. You can see that this is 2920. You can see that they've got ear tags in, and that number will stay with them for the rest of their life. They have, we keep a computer record of every animal with every treatment. If they ever get sick or they ever hurt a leg or something like that, we have records on every animal from the time they were born to the time they leave our dairy. And so this number is very, very important. And they go in chronological order. But what's unique about these ear tags is they duplicate as an RFID, which is an electronic transmitter. And that's how we feed our calves. And let me see if I can find a hungry one. Maybe. Here comes one. Are you nosy? You gonna be nosy today? And we'll see once if we can kind of lure them over to this calf area. We have one in here, but I think she's finished drinking. Yeah, she's all done. So what we do is these calves are just free to roam in here, and they know where to go when they get hungry. They come over here and they go inside this stall right here. And you can see this calf is playing with the nipple, but unfortunately, this little girl has already drank her entire allotment for this time period. You see the little green light flashing very quickly here. That tells me that the computer is saying, sorry, girl, you've already had your 4 cups of milk and you've got to wait another 3 or 4 hours before you're going to get any more. And when this calf comes in, the computer reads this ear tag and keeps track of every time she comes in here and tries to drink. And when she comes in here, the computer reads the ear tag and says yes or no that it can be fed and get some milk. Look how long their tongues are. Isn't that amazing? And while I'm doing this, it's important. I worked on the farm. I was not raised on a dairy. And so the first time I realized that cows don't have top teeth, I panicked and I thought I had a calf that was deformed. And I ran in the office and I told my father-in-law, we got a deformed calf because it doesn't have top teeth. And he just laughed. He says, no cows have top teeth. And so I'm going to see if I can't get this number 3007 to come in here. They're all nosy and hungry. These particular animals are not black and white, as you can tell. They are brown and white, and this is a mixture of a Holstein with a Guernsey, which are 2 different breeds. And this little guy has got to come in here. Come here. Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen today. Come on. Here we go. Achoo. Come here. This is what my employees go through until they figure this out. These have only been in here for one day. They put these in here today. Okay, so here she comes in, and the computer's going to read her ear tag, and it says it's green. So now she's going to come down here, and she's going to drink some milk. Okay, she's latched onto the nipple, and the pump has started pumping to bring milk over there. You can see the pumping going on right here, and from over here, the computer senses that the calf is drinking. There's powder milk in here, which is what you guys should have gotten a little container full of powder milk that looks kind of like this. And that's what's inside this tank. So as this calf drinks this milk down, the computer keeps track of how much she's drinking and how fast she drinks it. When this is empty, it refills with 104-degree water, and the powder milk, which you'll see here in just a minute, will come out of there. And it will continue to do that until she has drank her allotment of milk that she's allowed to have for this time period. Right now they're getting about 2 gallons of milk a day, but it's spread out over 24 hours. And so they get a little bit every 2 hours. They can have a little bit. Now, most of the time they drink every 6 hours or 7 hours, which is a whole lot better than we used to do. We used to feed them a half a gallon in the morning and a half a gallon at night, and that was all. Now so that's a gallon. So now they're getting 2 gallons of milk, and they're growing much, much, much faster. And we're seeing a bigger and stronger calf come out of here at 60 days. Now this calf she's gonna continue to drink here, and it just mixed another batch for her. And when she's all done, that green light will begin to blink, and she won't get any more. But she's gonna stand there and she's gonna play with it for a while, and then she'll back out and another calf will come in there. And this particular machine will feed up to 40 calves. We put 20 on this side and 20 on the other side. And so when they start to get bigger, this machine is feeding 40 calves up to, I think it's up to 3 gallons a day is what they get to when they start to grow a lot more. So, if your students have any questions about how this thing works, make sure you tell your teacher, and we can come back to this and answer questions as to how this whole thing works. We're going to move on down the line here. One of the very, very important parts of this barn is the way we keep our calves grouped together. Cows are herd animals. They like to be with other animals. They do not like to be alone. They like laying close to each other and being together, much like a regular classroom. And so we group our animals in groups of 20. And when we get, so you can put your math hats on, kids. We have 4 heifer calves a day. So we have pens of 20. How many days does it take to fill one of these pens? It's 5. So every 5 or 6 days, we fill one of these corrals. So there's 12 corrals in here. And so we have facilities for about 3 months of animals right here in this barn. That's why there's 3 corrals right now that are empty. But so we group them in 20, and as they're in here longer and longer, they get more and more and more milk, okay? And so you really don't, as we move down, you don't really see a difference in size. They do stay cute for about the first 30 days, but after that, they just kind of get big and ornery. And these calves over here are getting just a little bit bigger, and it's another group. This is a calf that's drinking, and she's already received her allotment. The one behind her is trying to get in and trying to say, hey, get out of the way, I want some milk. And so we just had another one come in on this side, and it's mixing up milk for her right now. And so this little girl's going to drink. This 2938, if I moved her out, this other one will come right in. If they move back, if I move her out, another one will come in there because they know what they're doing already. And this one's going to get their milk. And see the light turn green. And so, and these older calves know where mom is. They really think this is mom at this point. And so they're getting quite a bit more milk and starting the growth process. When a calf is born, they average 80 to 85 pounds. That's how heavy a calf is when they're born. We want them to leave this barn at 70 days old. The original goal was to double their weight, which would put it at about 170 pounds. For years, that was the standard for raising calves. You double their weight in the first 60 days. Our calves, because of the system that we have here now, are coming out of our corrals at about 220 pounds on average. And so it just tells us that we're making a bigger, stronger, healthier animal than what we used to do. So let's move over here and I'll show you what they look like 60 to 70 days later. Now these calves are on what we call the countdown, where they've hit their plateau and they've had their high allotment of milk for them to grow, for about 45 days. And then after they're about 45 days, we begin to step them down to the point where they're down to like a quart a day, and then they get nothing. And we call that weaning. And so these calves are all weaned. And if you look closely at them, you can see that they're laying on the straw and they're chewing their cud. And what is chewing their cud? Just looks like they got a wad of bubble gum in their mouth all the time. And they're just kind of chewing. Did your moms or dads ever say, stop eating like a cow? Well, if you look at them chewing their cud, that's what they're talking about, because they just open their mouth and they chew and chew and chew. That's a sign that the animals are very, very healthy, that their stomach is working. We did not see the animals chewing their cud until they were about 3 months old before we went to this system. And so we know that they're coming out of here bigger and stronger, and their stomach is more developed. Out of curiosity, do you know how many stomachs a cow has? A cow has 4 stomachs, and they chew their cud, they burp up the stuff that's in their first stomach, and they re-chew that, and they eat that over and over and over again until it gets fine enough to go through the other 4 stomachs, or 3 stomachs. And at a full-grown animal, when all 4 stomachs are working, they're eating close to 100 to 125 pounds of food a day, which is, that's a little bit. That's quite a bit. So part of what we do in here, we keep them comfortable, we keep them dry. We've got good, clean water right here, and this gets changed and cleaned every single day. Around the area here where they come and drink, this is cleaned and disinfected and essentially put in a dishwasher, if you wish, to make sure that anywhere that these calves are putting their nose in their mouth looking for food is clean. Because remember what we said about bacteria in the beginning, we want only good bacteria to come in. And so we make sure that this area is always clean. We didn't clean this just for you guys. This is how it looks in here every afternoon when we're done. The one difference with that these calves have is they get an additional grain supplement because they're no longer getting all of their milk. In fact, they're getting no milk whatsoever, and we want to start developing their stomachs. We add some hay, some very short hay. And in the hay is some grain and some protein mix that we mix up, and they're allowed to eat this as much as they want. They can have as much of this as they want. Now, you didn't get this in your little Tupperware container. This is something that we only feed to the ones that are being weaned. You received this grain, which is a special grain mix that is mixed for calves that are this age, kind of like baby food. It's a little bit chunky, but it's high in protein. And between these two ingredients, and if the calf is healthy and strong and eating their allotment, they're going to continue to grow and add their 1.8 to 2 pounds onto their frames and bones every single day. And so if you guys have any questions at all about this area, make sure you talk to your teachers, okay? And I'll try to answer all of them. Okay, so now you say, well, this is all fine. What about the computer that runs this place? How does all of this, how do our feeders and everything else, how is that all controlled? And where do we control that? And how do we set that all up? And come with me and I'll show you our computer. And the program that we have, it's a specialized program. It's designed specifically for dairy calves. And it's very, very specific as far as what it does. And so this is our touch screen that we have outside of an office with a computer sitting behind it. And it's much like the touch screens that you see used in the restaurants when your server comes in and orders you and orders your food and stuff. And what this does, it has all 6 of our feeding stations. And so this is feeding station number 6, and these are the animals that we just fed. And let me see. Okay, so 3006, I think 7 was the one that we let in there. And if I double tap this one, oop, wrong one, cancel. There we go. Okay, so here's, like I said, she's only been in here for 2 days. Oh. And this is the amount of milk that she's allowed to drink. That's that red line right there. So yesterday she didn't do so well. She just moved in there and she only had 2 liters, which is a half a gallon. Today she's well on her way and she's figuring things out, and she's had 4 liters on her way to 7. And eventually these numbers will look like this one, where the animals are drinking their allotment. And then the last pen that we were in were the ones that we call weaned. Here's the stair step going down until they're 58 days. See the number. I'm sorry. You can see the number here, and that's how old she would be, and she's done with her milk at that point. In this system right here, it controls, it tells us which animals have drank their full allotment, which animals have some that available to them, but they haven't come up to drink it. But most importantly, it tells us which ones have not drank that are supposed to, and they're marked in red. And these are the youngest animals that we have. These animals here are the babies of the babies. And my employees will come in here and tap this and look at it. They quickly write down their numbers, and this is 2985 and 2986. They'll go out to the corral and look at 2985 and 2986 and bring them in there and try to get them to drink. If they don't drink, they try to diagnose what's wrong with them. usually there's nothing wrong with them. They're just tired. They're like newborn babies. They sleep a lot, and they just got to be reminded to get up and go find the food. And so we make sure that every animal is green at the end of the day. And at midnight tonight, it starts all over again. They're all blue at midnight, and they start a whole new day. And then they come in, and they start their clock when they come in at, I don't know, they usually start drinking around 2 or 3 in the morning. They'll come up and get a little bit. And then again at 7 o'clock and 10 o'clock. They drink about every 4 to 6 hours. And at first it's a little bit further apart, but as they get older, they drink more and more, so they're drinking closer and closer together. So in our barn, this isn't just a barn with a roof on it. I don't know if you can see the curtains behind me and the fans that are up in the rafters here. It's very important for our animals to have air transfer, is what we call. We want the air in this barn, when it's closed like it is on a cold day like today, we want the air to be exchanged in here every 15 minutes. And so we have a fan that's on all the time, and it fills this tube, and that tube is never turned off. It's always blowing air out, and it cycles the air where the calves are laying. Every 15 minutes, there's new air in here. When it gets warmer than it is today, because it's kind of a cool day today, but the animals don't get cold unless it gets down really below freezing. The curtains, when it warms up, the curtains actually start to open. And they will begin to open at 40 degrees because we want as much fresh air in here as possible. Once the curtains are fully open and it continues to warm up at about 65 degrees, these big fans start to turn on, and they turn very slowly just to move a little bit of air. As it warms up during the day, the fans start turning faster and faster and faster until at 85 degrees, they're running full speed and the curtains are open, and we're doing everything we can to keep the cows comfortable. 85 doesn't feel very warm to us, but it's pretty warm for a cow. And so we try to keep our animals, they like it cooler than we like it. And so air movement is the only way to really keep an animal cool. But in here, it's so important for the calves' health that they have good, clean air. And so that's what we've done when we designed this building. So I think we're right at a half an hour. I think we can open it up for questions if you guys have any questions.
Awesome, Louie. Thank you so much for all that information and for showing us around the calf barn. We have several questions here that classes have submitted throughout the tour. And the first one that actually 2 of our classes were wondering is, what are the ingredients for the grain mix that the calves get after they are weaned?
After they're weaned? That's a good question. Okay, so in that hay mix, the hay is very, very good quality. So it's right around 20-25% protein. Then we add a little bit of flaked corn. We add some canola meal, which is a byproduct of the canola oil that your mom uses to make French fries. There's a little bit of distiller's grain in there. That's a byproduct of ethanol from the Midwest, where they make ethanol. So we use 3 or 4 different sources of protein, and then we use the grain, the corn, for the carbohydrate. And our nutritionist, who comes here every 2 weeks, looks at our animals to make sure that they're all healthy and adjusts the ration accordingly. When it's colder, we need a little bit more protein. So we bump up a little bit more. We give them a higher percentage of the canola and distillers. When it's hot, not so much. They need more of the sugar. They need more of the corn. And so we change it just a little bit, depending on the weather.
Awesome. The
Okay.
next question we have is, how do you contain the water and the milk powder, and how does the machine mix it up?
Okay, good question. So underground here, underneath where we're standing, are water lines coming up underneath and drain lines coming out. Now this thing is actually going through a rinse right now. This is the very first system that we had, that we watched. And because no calf has come in here for the last 10 minutes, it goes into an automatic rinse and wash. And it just comes in and it cleans this area and then just dumps the milk down the drain, much like putting it in the dishwasher. And so everything is contained right here. There's a water heater in here that heats the water. But then, of course, there's a hose and a sink and everything else that we need to wash down further. So did that answer the question?
Yeah, that's awesome. A follow-up question to that is, how do you refill the milk machines?
How do I rebuild these machines?
Refill them.
Refill them. Oh, good question. Good question. So the lid comes off and we just dump the powder milk straight in here. And this will hold about 100 pounds of powder milk. It's enough for these calves to just be filled once a day. But once the calves are bigger and they're drinking, my employees have to come in here and make sure these are full before they go home at 3 o'clock, because by 6 o'clock in the morning, they're almost empty. And so that's how they're filled. And there's a little thing that spins around inside there that dumps the powder milk into the water and into the blender.
Awesome. Miss Larson's class would like to know, what happens if a calf doesn't finish all of its milk?
She has another few hours to finish it. It'll be held over and the computer will keep track of it. Say she's allowed to have 2 quarts and she only drinks 1 quart. Okay, so the computer will bank a quart, and the next time she comes in, instead of getting 2 quarts, she gets 3 quarts. So it will do that for only a few hours, and then after that, if she doesn't drink it, she loses it. It'll store it for several hours, but after that, they do lose it. But we keep track of that, and if they're not drinking their full allotment, we go out and find them and try to figure out why they're not drinking it. Good
Awesome.
question. Good question.
The next question that we have is, how heavy do cows get?
How heavy do cows get? The full-grown cows, once they're full-grown, after 2 years, these will weigh right at 1,250 pounds before they have their calf. And so in 24 months, they go from 85 pounds to 1,250 pounds. It takes us almost 18 years to get to the maturity that a cow gets in 2 years.
Perfect. Miss Larson's class again would like to know, what do you do if a calf escapes?
Well, when they come out here, there's nowhere for them to go because all the doors are always closed. And so they usually just come out here in the middle and they find out they're all by themselves and they don't really like that. And so they may come out, but if nobody comes with them, they will usually turn around and go right back. So, but even if they do get out and there's a group of them out and a gate gets opened up overnight somehow, they're not going to go anywhere. They won't hurt themselves. They do kind of make a mess once in a while, but it doesn't happen very often. But it's a good question.
Perfect. Miss Rutherford's class would like to know, how many calves do you have in that barn right now?
Good question. So each pen has 20 in them, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 8 corrals full. So let's do the math. I got to count on my fingers because I'm not that fast. Or I can cheat and take my phone out and look. It's 160 animals. We have 160 cows in here right now. And when it's at its fullest, we have the ability to have 80, 220 in here. Okay.
Awesome. Miss Ang's class would like to know, do you name the cows?
We don't name our animals. That's why we give them the ear tag for life. And so if, sometimes we get a pet. You know, the little red ones are always cute, just because they're different. But most of the time, we try not to get too attached to the cows. Believe it or not, a cow that wants to play with us can hurt us because they play so rough. They're so big, and so there's a healthy tension that we keep between respect and friendship. And my employees are instructed to never ever hit a cow. But yet, if a cow comes up and starts to nudge them, they have the ability to make that cow back off and respect their space because they want to play. They'll bump you with their heads. They'll hurt you. And so, yeah, we make sure that we keep them friendly and calm, but not best friends, so to speak.
Got it. Another question is, what happens if the computer doesn't read the cow's number or if it misses something?
Good question, because these are all questions that I asked before I installed this thing. So how do I guarantee that my calf is going to get milk every time she goes up in here and the computer's not going to screw it all up? And the answer to that is, if it can't read the number, the calf will come into the feeder. The feeder will try to read the ear tag, say there's something wrong, give it milk anyway, and then assigns it a number and colors it a different color so that we know that there's an animal out there that something's wrong. They will never get skipped being fed. They just get fed to a different number, and then we have to go correct it. And so they never go hungry.
Awesome. Miss Rutherford's class would like to know, where do these calves go after they leave this building?
Okay, so they go to
the map here of the property.
Okay, repeat that. Say that one more time.
I'll screen share the map that has
Okay.
all the buildings on it.
So they go to the barn that is not right next to where we're standing. It's one more over. We call it barn 6, is where they will go for about 18 months. And they work their way through barn 6. And every time they move a corral, their grain ration will change, and a different event will happen in their life. They will get vaccinated for different diseases that we vaccinate for, and at every different location, something is done to them.
Wonderful. Okay.
Boy, it's been fun having you guys.
Following up on that, and another one of the classes would like to know, what happens if a calf does get sick?
Well, that's a good question, because unfortunately calves do get sick, just like when you're little or you've got little brothers and sisters. They get snotty noses and they get upset tummies and stuff like that. Every day my employees will come in here and they look at every animal that's on the dairy, whether it's a calf or whether it's an animal that's 10 months old or 10 years old. It doesn't matter. They get looked at every day, and they get analyzed very quickly if there's something wrong with them. If a baby calf has, say, the diarrhea, what we do is very similar to what we do with when we get an upset tummy ourselves. We give it Pepto-Bismol, and it seems to work very, very well. We also use a small amount of antibiotics, simply because antibiotics used correctly are an arsenal that we've been given to fight disease. And I believe that not using the antibiotics, just like we have to, as humans, take antibiotics once in a while. We don't use them unless it's necessary. If they've got a temperature of 103 or higher, we give them some antibiotics, and we also give them aspirin, and then we diagnose what's causing the fever. And if the fever is caused by the diarrhea, then they get the Pepto-Bismol. If the fever is caused by an infection in their lungs and a snotty nose, then they get a different medication. So it varies from animal to animal as far as what we give them and what would cause them to get sick.
Following up on that, Miss Smith's class would like to know, do you have a vet at the dairy?
We do not have a vet hired full-time. All of our employees are trained in animal husbandry, they call it. We have a vet that comes every 2 weeks, and he spends about 6 hours a day every 2 weeks here. And he helps us with, helps me with management and looking at the animals, and he does what we call preg check. He checks them for pregnancies. But every 2 weeks we have a vet on the property, and we have a nutritionist that comes every 2 weeks. I have other expertise that come in besides all of my great employees. I have other people that come in usually every 2 weeks to be another set of eyeballs for me.
Awesome. Miss Smith's class would also like to know, at what age do cows usually stop producing milk, and then what happens to them once they are done producing?
Okay, so the age that an animal would quit producing milk is really up to the individual animal. Like I said, they have to have a calf every year in order to produce milk. So what would cause them what would cause the production to drop could be we can't get them pregnant in time. And sometimes a cow can be 6 years old and we get 6 babies out of it. So it'd be about 8 years old. And before they're tired and then they go to the auction yard. Other animals, we get 2 years, 3 years out of them, but average is about 3 years for our animals, as far as 3 lactations, I should say. So 5 years of age, okay?
All right. Miss Larson's class would like to know, how many hours can a cow sleep?
You know, there's 3 things that a cow needs to be doing. One of them is sleeping, one of them's eating and drinking, and one of them's being milked. Those are the only 3 things they need to do. We want our animals to lay down about 15 hours a day. So we try to keep their beds very comfortable. These calves will sleep like this, actually about 20 to 21, 22 hours a day. They're only up and active for a small amount of time, then they go lay down again. And then they get up and drink a little bit, and then they go lay down again. And when they become mature animals, we want them either eating and drinking water, laying down, producing milk, chewing their cud, resting, or being milked.
Awesome. Okay, so we have a couple of classes that would like to know what breeds give the most and the least amount of milk.
Okay, so each breed, and we have 2 or 3 different breeds here. We have the Guernsey and a Swiss, and then Holstein. They all have Holstein in them, okay? The black and white ones are all Holstein. Holstein animals, the Holstein breed, gives the most milk. Right now, our Holsteins are giving an average of about 88 pounds per cow. So that's right at 10-gallon average. So a Jersey or a Guernsey will give at the most between 70 and 75 pounds of milk. But the Jersey and Guernsey have a much higher butter fat and makes better cheese. And so it just depends on what you're using the milk for, as far as what kind of cow you want. All the cows in Tillamook are Jerseys, because in Tillamook they make cheese, and the Jerseys make the best cheese. Okay, our milk pretty much all goes to Portland, and you guys get to drink it if you're drinking regular milk. And so we don't want we want high butterfat, but we don't need the 4.2 or 4.3% butterfat. So
Awesome.
I guess to answer the question more clearly, it would be Holstein, then the Jersey, then the Guernsey, and then probably the Swiss.
Miss Larson's class would like to know what breed was your first cow, and then I would like to know which breed is your favorite.
I like the Holstein. I still like the Holstein, and that's been what I grew up on, and I've been working for about almost 38 years now with Holstein. This is the first time that we've started introducing the other breeds into our herd, and they're cute, but I still like the Holstein.
Wonderful. Miss Duncan's class would like to know, how long does milking take, and what do the cows do while they're being milked?
Good questions. It only takes about 10 minutes to milk a cow. So for 10 minutes, 3 times a day, they're standing we bring them into our milking parlor, and I have milkers in there that hook machines up to them. And that's a whole nother virtual tour that we'll have to put together for you guys. But from the time the animal comes into the milking parlor to the time it leaves, it's about 10 to 15 minutes. And so it's very, very fast. And like I said, we do 1,700 3 times a day, and it's going all the time.
Awesome. All right. So let's do just a few more questions here. Look through, see some ones that we haven't gotten yet. Why is it important for humans to drink milk?
Oh, good question. You know, for kids your age, it is so important to drink milk because you're growing bones and you want your bones to be big and strong. You don't want to be breaking your bones when you start to play sports. And so dairy is very, very important for especially for younger kids like yourselves to have milk. I still try to drink 3 glasses of milk a day. And I try to not drink I don't drink sodas anymore at all. If I need a little sugar fix, I just drink a chocolate milk. But it is very, very important that you get your 3 servings a day of dairy products, whether it comes in yogurt or cheese or glasses of milk, which is my favorite. It's so important for your bone growth and the health of your body to have nature's best product, and that's milk.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Louie. We really appreciate you letting us get a look at what goes into the state-of-the-art calf barn and your dairy farm here. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking this time to join us on our first ever virtual farm tour. We hope that you enjoyed it and learned a lot. There was a lot of questions that came through that we weren't able to get to. So teachers, keep a lookout in your email inbox, and we will have Louie answer them, and we'll send them all your way. So if you have any follow-up questions, go ahead and put them into the chat box, and we'll be sure to get those answered. Other than that, thank you very much again for joining us, and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, guys. Take care.